everybody, welcome back to another wonderful and fun Covert Adventures. Today I'm in the middle of the Cherokee National Forest down here in Polk County in the old abandoned ghost town of McFarland, Tennessee. There's not really much left here except for a concrete, what is left to the base of a concrete plant. McFarland was built and supported the construction of the Appalachia Dam in the 1940s. To make sure it came in line to provide power for TVA. As everybody knows, during that time it was wartime, so they were building dams to get enough power to power the Manhattan Project. And little tiny communities in that partaked in that. And once all that was done, some of them stayed around and others ended up disappearing. But you can actually come down here and ride around. Some people came through here and they've actually disrupted the flow of this creek, so you got to kind of try to get around here without too much. But anyway, so here is the bottom of the base, and here's a picture of what it actually looked like. And the base is here, so the trucks would pull in underneath this structure and would dump in the concrete, would come in these holes and take it off to be built for the Appalachia Dam. One thing that's kind of interesting to point out about this structure is look how intact it is. Like, there's no major spalling or cracking or really anything of it really falling apart. And it's been here for 80 some years, believe it or not. What's interesting is if you look at the architecture of this, it is actually very similar to the support structure of what Bald River Falls used to look like on the original bridge built back in the 30s. So there was definitely a thing with the architecture at the time. And from the drone video here, you can actually see some of those. There's two beams up there at the top that are very similar to the railing design of that bridge as well. Anyways, we walk over here and there's a few footers that are left, and this is kind of where everything kind of started conveying itself up to the top over here, is how this would have worked. And looks like there's a road and a trail back up in here. From what I understand, the town is actually closer to the train tracks. You might try to adventure down there. Not too sure just yet. Something else I want to show us up here, mainly because I don't know how good the road is to get the truck down there, and if I want to necessarily walk down there today. Let's see. So the road you can kind of see is down there. You can see the railroad track is there. The railroad track has actually been turned into a scenic railroad ride, and I do got some video of that I did with my father last year. It was really fun. It was about a 4.5 hour ride. I think definitely worth it. Talked about a lot of the history of this area. But anyways, a lot of these towns were here. And when the National Forest came in and started taking over land, there was a hotel there in McFarland that a lot of them would stay at. And they called it the Government Hotel because a lot of federal workers were there as this land was handed over to the Cherokee National Forest. Now, I did see on one of the videos, and I can still see it's this way, someone ended up busting the maintenance door, but there's really nothing behind it. But anyway, so this is, well, this little creek runs over. This is one of the penstocks for the water lines that run down to the powerhouse that actually run the power. So what I think is actually interesting about it is, I mean, you got this waterfall coming across the top up there. Looks like there's even a little concrete structure up there, and it comes down here and runs through here. But they have the maintenance door, and the maintenance door actually says McFarland on it. So, but yeah, get a little closer to this here. But anyway, so this is the door says McFarland on it, and this is the maintenance shaft to get into the penstock there. Imagine having to go through that little tiny hole into an 8-10 mile pipe and inspecting it. And you can see there's water dripping, and that's just coming from the top, but that pipe is not leaking at all, completely sealed. And how many thousands of gallons of water is probably flowing through here right now. So very, very, very interesting to get to see something like this down here. And like I said, I mean, you know, this was actually a town, and they literally still have it on the door, McFarland. Kind of interesting. And this nice little waterfall chute here, just wondering why they specifically picked this spot to do this. I'm wondering if it was mainly because when they cut through the mountain, if they just had to fill it in because the pipe just came through here. So there's two of them, if I understand correctly, coming through, or it may be just one large one and then splits off when you get to the dam, or to the powerhouse where the power is generated. So the power is actually generated 8 miles from where it's at. So I actually did decide to risk it to come down 23B Forest Road and into the lower part of McFarland. This is about as far as I'm gonna go because there's some big puddles up here, and I don't want to take the chance of getting stuck down here. So I don't know how deep, because what it is that waterfall from the top comes down through here, and I don't know if that's what's causing this, but look at the rocks and stuff coming over. I don't know if that's naturally doing that or if they just, you know, from when this was all built, but it's kind of definitely different to see. But we'll walk down here a little ways. I won't go too terribly far. I doubt anyone's gonna come, but I just wanted to take a point because I didn't know where I could find an area to turn around at. Walk down through here and get across this. I probably could have made the truck could have went through this, but I didn't want to take the chance and get stuck, and I didn't know how much of an opportunity I'd have to find a place to turn around, because I do not want to have to back all the way out of here, but I don't think there's much far. But anyway, so the Hiwassee Railroad comes through here, the tour group, because this was a very active railroad line at one time, And so I remember there being a I believe there was a switch part, because I think they said there's actually 3 ghost towns along this route. And there's another area that it literally was just a depot for the train tracks. There was no real road or anything to get in. It was where the trains used to stop and have to fill up for water, because this used to be kind of a big bottleneck, because this train line ran all the way up to St. Louis, if I remember correctly. And the bottleneck was they'd have to go up the mountain and it would be switchbacks. Well, this railroad track actually loops on top of itself, and that was a big expensive thing, but a big breakthrough at the time. And so you can still ride that part and see it today. You see there's some land disturbance over there, but I don't think there's a whole lot left down here. I know someone had shown that there was a cistern, and I don't think there was like really any real land plot maps or anything that have survived to kind of tell you where things are. Yeah, that's a good thing I didn't bring the truck down, because I think that's about as far as we would have gotten, because there's no way I would have went through this. Need to get me like a Jeep or something like that, so I can kind of have a vehicle to kind of go out and adventure in more if I want to do this type of stuff. You can tell over here at one time the way the train tracks are set, there's railroad ties. Oh yeah, so here's one of the markers here from the St. Louis, from the railroad, and you can see it's marked 355, and that's because at this point from here to the railroad track, this is 355 miles away from where it had ran. You can see there's some train tracks and stuff stubbled here. Probably should never get this close, but I know that this is not a real active railroad right now. That's an old rusted bucket there. And anyways, let's walk over here and see if we can see anything. Somebody's had a campfire down here. You can tell where the land was disturbed, where there was stuff that was built at one time. But there's really nothing down here. I'll have to try to find that video again. Oh, here's a foundation. Yep, here's a house. Here's where the building sat at. Of course, people got to trash it, like anywhere else. But here's part of here's some slate. But here's a foundation right here. Goes up and around. So here was and then it looks like there was a part of another one up here on the top. You can tell someone had flowers or something still growing here. I wish I knew what that thing cistern was at. But you can definitely tell that this was all cleared out for something at one point in time. It looks like a little underground well, and that would have been definitely essential. And I'm standing on top of something I probably don't want to be. Definitely don't want to fall. But yeah, the road doesn't go down any farther than this is it. But you can definitely tell that this was definitely disturbed. And this, well, this right here looks like this was also forced in as well. So even this was also part of some kind of foundation of some sort. I'm just going to walk down here a little bit and we'll start walking back. yeah, you can still see some of the houses. So this right here probably was more like a road right here at one time, and they went through, and looks like here they had some rock and stuff piled up so they could drive across, and that kind of looks like some disturbances over there too. But you can see where all the or even over there it was even disturbed. But this is a road that ran right here alongside this train track all the way through. It's very interesting. It's actually interesting to see it on the train and then actually get out and look at some point in time. There's a rust bucket sitting there. They just kind of threw those railroad ties everywhere they could. But yeah, the road still goes up and around. Because I'd say there was probably a road that ran through here all the way. All right, let's see what this takes us to. This is just going to take us down to the river. Wonder if this is like a camping area. Don't want to get too far away from the truck. You can see there's some shell and some stuff that slayed it. Well, it's definitely nice when it's getting warm like this. It's not too terribly hot yet. Yeah, this is just an area down here for someone had for a campsite down here. Probably. And we're just gonna turn around and walk back. Yeah. So what this was, somebody was down here camping. Someone carved their name, K plus D. Old mattress pad. So yeah, someone's been down here camping, and but yeah, this is the mighty Hiwassee River. All right, let's start to walk back and see if we see anything interesting. I mean, could you just imagine back in the day? I mean, here's the bottom of somebody's boot. Could you imagine back in the day, like your livelihood basically just, you know, there was a thing that I was reading that said, you know, people typically didn't travel back in those days more than 10, 20 miles in their life from where they were at, because travel was just so hard and expensive, you know. One of the things is it was like, you know, when automobiles came out, the automobiles were owned by the rich and the horses were for the poor. Now today, it's the rich own the horses and the poor drive the vehicles. It's just interesting how the automobile has changed us in really the past 120 years. And, you know, when these train tracks and stuff were put in, you know, the government was paying them per mile of track, so they didn't necessarily take the fastest routes, and over time, speed became a game changer. So some of these tracks that weren't necessarily profitable, and that ended up getting shut down. I think this was used up until the 70s. And I think it shut down. And but I remember on that train tour, I highly recommend, they said there was actually one of the volunteers on it used to actually work this when it was a functioning railroad, because this will go all the way into, I believe it goes all the way into Blue Ridge, Georgia. So it is interesting to think that these train tracks and stuff like that are still used. We ended up stopping up there in Farner, Tennessee is where it stopped, and they pulled off on a spur and let the engine go around us and connect us and then pull us back down. And you know, and it's really nice. Wish they had one of those cars that you could stood on for everybody, but they had the little corner pieces where you could go and kind of stand out and look. So it was a really nice trip, and especially getting in between the cars. That is McFarland, Tennessee for you. That's what's left of it. It's not too bad actually getting out here. You know, this is about a 2-hour drive from Knoxville for sure, but not that bad. Probably definitely want to have a high clearance vehicle, at least with all-wheel drive. Nothing too dramatic. Coming down this road, you're going to want 4-wheel drive for sure, but the upper part, and then you can just walk down here. Try to figure out where the upper part would be, up that way, where we were, where that waterfall came across. So, yeah, just look at this hillside though. But anyways, well, that's it on this Covert Adventure. I hope you enjoyed that and hope to see you on the next one.